restriction to construct new outdoor advertising off-premises signs along the designated byway route. And if life were black and white, that would be fine, but life is gray. And I personally would not vote for this resolution with that in it. I didn't come here for an audience, but the other thing is, I just got this management plan Friday, and I haven't had a chance to look at it, but to me, it's starting to, I'm starting to get the feeling that it's a loss of local control, which really bothers me. So that's just how I feel about it at this point. Now, maybe I'll change my mind when I read this, but that's my initial feelings.
I have 2 comments. First one is that language, that precise clause in the resolution comes from the state of New York. And that's the statement that essentially says you can't have billboards. That's the way they phrase it, and that's the only phrase that's in there that was from the state. The rest of it was written locally.
So I don't always agree with the state either.
The town of Olive has a zoning ordinance, don't we? That you can't have an off-premise. Isn't that in our zoning regs? I thought.
You know, many years ago, there was a lot of discussion over that. And to be honest with you, I don't know where it really ended up. I know it ended up with some board members at odds, and it never went any further.
I remember when we went through all of the codes, and that I'm positive that is in our zoning ordinance, that you can't have an off-premise sign to begin with.
However, it isn't, it's in the Catskill Park.
But
however, zoning ordinance has a variance process.
Correct, there is a variance. But my question is, the signs that are already in existence that have been grandfathered in to the Catskill Park designation, will they be grandfathered into?
Yeah.
So they.
Yeah. Another requirement of the corridor management plan is to inventory those signs and submit them to the state. So all the off-premise signs have been documented, and that gets packaged in there as well, so everyone knows what's out there.
So that those have already been
grandfathered.
So if there are some off-premise signs out there, then the state might come along and say you got to move those because they have this inventory.
Nope, they're grandfathered. So when you submit the application, you document all the signs, and you say, here's the number of signs, here's their location, and then from that point on, but again, I'm talking about something that would be outside the Catskill Park. Even if you don't adopt a scenic byway and support this resolution, you still have that regulation in place. So it's sort of a moot point, really. But it's got to be in the resolution according to the state, I asked them.
Peter, I think in the town of Olive, we only have 1 billboard left. And that's out on 28, yeah. We did the sign inventory a year ago, and every single sign, except there's a new sign which I've seen, and that's the one that's at Winchell's Corner to go to the Ashokan Center. That's a new one that wasn't on our sign inventory, so that needs to be added.
No, it's not for profit though.
Not for profit, but still, we would have gotten it on the inventory, but we didn't.
We abandoned the comprehensive inventory, which would have been useful to everyone. We started out, we had a intern from Cornell University who decided as long as she was out there looking for these billboards, she would just document every sign and would be helpful to the state and where are the campgrounds and everything. But she got about a third or a half maybe, and then she went back to school. And then we weren't able to keep up that comprehensive inventory. So I did learn, though, that religious and not-for-profit institutions aren't covered. It's businesses, advertising signs.
Robert Selkowitz, I'm the other representative for Olive to the collaborative. And you may have noticed also the Catskill Park logo signs that are appearing on the Route 28 corridor. Signage has been an issue that we've been talking about. and working with the DOT and the DEC. We're also looking at improved signage for some of the natural features. And what was the thing about on a side street that you could do a sign for something that was one turn off or two turns off? That there is consideration for this, so that attractions are more easily found. I had tourists come up to me when I was at the Methodist Church one time on Memorial Day saying, "Where are we? What is this? Where can we go hiking?" And there was no way for them to find where the resources of the Catskill Park are. We're in the middle of the Catskill Park here. It's, 700,000 acres. It's a tremendous asset for every community here. And that was one of the realizations, that we wanted to bring the awareness of living in a protected area and the benefit that brings to all of us in this county and in the other counties. So the idea that you feel you're losing control over something is, it's not really what's happening, because the specific thing that you're worrying about was something that you didn't have control over in the first place. And, you know, to talk about an issue like signage, it is being addressed in the collaborative meetings. And as Peter said, we've had 30 meetings to get to this point. Peter has put together a proposal. It's over 100 pages. You've seen it. And once it's approved here, it's going to sit in Albany for a period of time. But we certainly deserve to be recognized as the Catskill Mountain Scenic Byway, which is the name that was chosen through the selection process from all of the collaborative members. And I hope that you'll give us that support. I understand if you want to wait and digest and read the whole thing, but please don't just let it sit for months, because we want to get this going.
Robert and I and Peter would be very willing to
Any questions?
come to you in a public meeting or in a workshop and answer all sorts of questions. Because we've dealt with most of the questions I think you can come up with.
Yeah, I just like to add one more quick thing on what Robert said. This project belongs to the communities. I've been around the block long enough to know that if the communities don't instigate a process on their own, then, you know, I have no business in their business. All these 7 communities said that they wanted to explore this, and they all submitted resolutions to CWC to get the money. So we laid all that out in the beginning, and then we've been working diligently to get to this point.
I've got a question for you. On page 26, it says qualified economic activities. Who gets to qualify the economic activities?
What's the context?
It says whether or not the proposed project comes into the design of a scenic byway along Route 28 will help stimulate the economy of the Central Catskills, and the corridor management plan will help prepare their corridor communities with a program of promoting intrinsic qualities, protection, scenic resources, balancing these needs with those of qualified economic activities. Who gets to decide if they're qualified?
Well, I think it's not an either or. I think the intent of the plan is to pursue tourism, you know, connection to scenic resources. But I think that phrase was pulled from the watershed agreement, essentially. There are certain things that can't occur inside the New York City watershed. Sometimes, you know, that phrase is used to say qualified economic development. But basically, what the plan is saying is we need to connect to our resources better. There are projects that, you know, won't harm the environment. This plan is not there to make a call. That's qualified. This isn't qualified. This plan very much is focusing on a segment of your overall economy, right? Scenic resources, tourism, recreation, natural sites. That's what this plan focuses on. It's not making a call or taking away anything else.
I think that refers to the sentence before it, and it's referring to the proposed resort project or the proposed expansion of Bel Air Mountain Ski Center, and then the next sentence